All right, guys. I think we can start. Um, so welcome to the Azure Machine Learning Workshop, guys. Um, Hello, I'm Shreya Arora. I'm a data science and UX instructor at DubsTech, which is an RSO on campus at UW. And recently, DubsTech just got integrated with the iSchool at UW. So I'm really proud of what we've done so far. And a bit about me. I'm from Bangalore, which is known as the Silicon Valley of India. And I'm an informatics major specializing in data science. I'm an incoming software engineering intern at Nokia. And I'm passionate about data science and software development. And this is the first time I'm teaching this in an online workshop. So wish me luck, guys. And also I have Shravan, who's going to be helping me with this workshop. So you can go ahead.
Hey guys, I'm Shravan. I'm also a data science instructor at DubsTech, and like Shrey said, we recently got integrated with the iSchool, and yeah, that was pretty nice. So just the reason me and Shrey are together in the same room right now is because we live together. So
Yeah,
yeah,
we're roommates and data science instructors at DubsTech.
yeah. So
That's convenient.
okay. So just a bit about me. I'm from Mumbai, India. I recently got into the info major, and my focus is data science. Also, I'm part of this research group called Project Reset with the HCD department. We do some cool VR stuff there. So if you want, like, you can go ahead and check that out too. And my focus is machine learning, and I do that with Python, and I do some data visualization with R as well. And right now, I'm going to be just giving you guys an overview about what machine learning is and how you go about the process of machine learning. And Shrey is going to be teaching you the Azure ML Studio part of it. I'm just going to be setting up like the machine learning part of it. So yeah, so I guess we can get started on that. Okay. Yeah. So today in our agenda, we have what exactly we're just going to see what machine learning is, what are the different types of machine learning, and then Shay's just going to get into like the intro to Azure ML Studio and like do like couple of quick projects with you guys, just to get you guys used to how to use the tool. So yeah, hopefully you guys have fun. Uh, okay, so we're just gonna look into what exactly data science is. Like we're gonna see like the life cycle of data science. How do we actually go about like asking a question that we want to answer, and how does that end in us making an actual machine learning model which has a decent like prediction, like decent accuracy, and then how do we convey our results from the machine learning model to someone who's interested in our findings. So first of all, we start with the first thing is our business understanding. And what I mean by that is we have to ask a relevant question to be able to actually use machine learning to answer that question. So we need to have an objective in mind first, so that like we have a problem that needs to be solved, and how we're going to solve it is using machine learning. And so that's our first step, trying to find a problem in a particular space and like ask a relevant question about it, and then go ahead. So yeah, that's the first step. The second step is actually getting the data to solve that problem. So okay, we've decided we have so and so, like we have to answer this kind of question. Now where do I get the data to answer this question? So like there are a lot of data sets online. Like there's a couple of places like Kaggle is pretty good for that. So we have places like Kaggle, and we also like we can scrape the data necessary for our project online. And interestingly enough, Shrey teaches another workshop called PassHub, like how to use PassHub to it's a data scraping tool that scrapes data from websites, and then like you can make a data set for yourself. So that's pretty cool too. You should check it out sometime. And yeah, so that's our second step, actually getting the data to try and answer the question that we just asked. Now, the third thing that we do is data cleaning. So once we get the data, we have to like you guys can see that like once you get data, it's not always in the format that we desire. It's not always the way we want it to be, and it might not be conducive for machine learning modeling as soon as we get it. So we're going to have to clean up the data a bit. We're going to have to make it like suitable to our machine learning model process. And that's why we do data cleaning. And what I mean by data cleaning is there's going to be inconsistencies in the data. There's going to be like some values that are missing. There's going to be like some values that aren't usable in our machine learning model. And we're going to have to find appropriate ways to deal with that data, to deal with like missing data, missing values, and values that aren't usable. And all the and they might not be in the format that we want it to be while entering in the machine learning model. So we're going to have to change that. We're going to have to find these inconsistencies and make sure that we change the format of our data to the way we want it. And once we've done that, now we come to our fourth step, which is data exploration. So once we have the data in the format ready and prepared in the way that we want it, we're going to have to try and find some patterns between the rest of our columns. We have a couple of features, we have a couple of columns, and then we have one column that we're trying to predict. So for example, if we're one of the projects I think you guys will be doing today is the income project. And so in that, we're trying to predict the income of a person, and and we use the details about the person to try and predict this income. So we have to try and find like patterns between those features about a person and the income that they actually make, so that we can we can try and analyze our data. We can try and see, oh, okay, so like the age of the person is related to how they earn, and or maybe the gender of the person is related to how they earn. So these are the kind of patterns that we're going to try and look for initially. We're going to explore our data, see how the patterns turn out. And that brings us to our next step, which is feature engineering. And I teach the workshop on feature engineering. I'm pretty this is like a problem space that I'm very interested with. And it's a pretty vital part of the machine learning process. And feature engineering basically means we're just going to select the most important features, and we're going to construct more meaningful features using the raw data that you have. What I mean by this is, like I said, we have a couple of columns in our data set, and then we have a target column which we're trying to predict using these columns. So sometimes we're going to have a lot of columns, a data set with let's say hundreds of columns, but we don't actually need all of them. So we're going to select the few important ones that we found have a good actually correlated with our target column. Using feature engineering, we're going to select those important. We're going to find ways to select those important columns that are actually useful to us to do machine learning. And we're also even going to make new ones. So we have a lot of raw data. We have a lot of columns that we can integrate into one. We can make it a more meaningful column. So we this is the process of feature engineering, where you select important columns and you make new columns for yourself based on your target value. And that's where feature engineering steps in. It's again a problem space I'm very interested in, and I explore a lot. So yeah, I have a couple of workshops on that if you guys want to check that out too. So yeah, now once we've done feature engineering, once we've taken all the columns that are useful to us, we've made our new columns, and we've discovered patterns and cleaned up our data, then comes our actual step of building a machine learning model. So we train a machine learning model on our data. So we make the machine learning model learn based on the data that we have given it. And we wanted to predict a target column, the target column that we decided we wanted to predict the target column on an unseen data set. So sometimes we're gonna we're gonna train it on the data set that we have, and then we're gonna see how well our machine learning model performs while trying to predict the target column in a different data set that it has never seen before. So that's our actual test, right? We're gonna see how accurate our predictions are on a data set that the model has never seen before. And once we get once we get the accuracy of our model, once we see how well our model is actually predicting or what our model is actually predicting, then our next step is data visualization, because these are findings that could probably be interpreted by the person who's built the model, but it might not mean anything to someone who doesn't know what machine learning is, or who doesn't know what the process of machine learning is. So our findings, if we just present it to them in the raw format, it's not going to be very useful for them. So that's why data visualization comes in, where we have to try and communicate our findings with the key, with the actual people who it matters to, in a way that they understand. So we could use infographics, whatnot, and we could say okay, these are the things that I found, these are the predictions that I made using the machine learning model, and this is what these predictions, this is what these values actually mean. In layman's terms, this is what these mean. So that is kind of the data science life cycle. where we go from asking a relevant question, doing all these steps, and actually coming to like, okay, these are the answers, or these are the answers I didn't find to the question that we asked, and these are the things I found. So yeah, that's the whole data science life cycle. Are there any questions? Am I going too fast? Yeah, you guys can also like let me know in the chat if there's any questions. Okay. Yeah, it looks like all of you guys are good with this now. So yeah, I'm just gonna go to the next slide. Okay, so this is just like, it's just to show you guys like where we can use machine learning model, where like in the real world, how it's used, like for what kind of things it's used. So like you can see, it's used in actually a very like vast range of like businesses and problem spheres. So we can use it in travel, in the travel industry, for example, to predict the pricing. Like there's always the Airbnb data set where we can try and predict the pricing of a listing given all the features of the listing. We can try and predict how like the flight delays and stuff like that. And even in healthcare, like some pretty interesting things, like especially in times like now, like where you try and predict the like you have disease prediction, and you try and predict how effective a medication could be in curing a particular disease based on like people who've like been given the medicine before and stuff like that. And like always, we have things like sentiment analysis, where we try and find out, like we try and predict the sentiment of a review based on a like review data set from Yelp or something like that. So like you see, it can be applied to like a vast range of business problems. And yeah, like machine learning is pretty much like used almost everywhere now for businesses to try and improve their services. So yeah, just like generally it's like a pretty good tool. um Second. Okay, so then we're just going to see like what machine learning actually is. So machine learning is actually the method of data analysis that automates analytical model building. Now, what do I mean by this? It's basically we have a particular set of data, and we're going to try and build an analytical model that learns from that data, like in an automated way. It learns from the data, identifies patterns, and then tries and makes decisions with like minimal human intervention, or it makes decisions without much like human interaction while the whole process is going on. So like we just try and like put it in the model, like the algorithm, like how do we want the model to get trained, how do we want it to identify patterns. The model does all of that for us. We don't actually have to do those processes. So like that's what actually machine learning is. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is what are the different types of machine learning that are actually out there. So we have these 4 different types of machine learning: supervised, unsupervised, semi-supervised, and reinforcement. And what I mean by those is supervised is just basically we have a labeled data set. So basically what we do is we have these columns, and like for each, like for a particular row, let's say like in the income thing that Shrey's going to teach you today. So like we have the age, gender of a person, for example, and we know how much they make right now. So that's a labeled data set. So we know the answer, and we're going to train the machine learning model on this like labeled data set and try and like compare it with the predictions that we get. Correct. And this is good for like problems like regression and classification. And what regression is basically you're trying to predict a specific number, like for example the income of a person, or like the price of a house. And classification is you're trying to predict like what is sentiment, or like in sentiment and spam filter prediction, you're trying to predict whether a mail is spam or not, whether a sentiment of a review is positive or negative, for example, stuff like that. And as like the name suggests, unsupervised is when you have a data set that isn't labeled. Semi-supervised is when you have some label, some like rows in the data set are labeled, some aren't. And reinforcement learning is just like every time you get feedback from the model that you do, and every time you improve your predictions based on the feedback you got. So these are the 4 different types of machine learning. And like these are the examples that are given here. Like if you guys want to check it out, these are the examples that are given here, like for the actual type of machine learning, like model that the business problem that it tries, like it's very popular in solving. Like for example, product customer segmentation, speech analysis, self-driving car. Like we're a bit short on time, so like I won't go into the details of these. But yeah, you guys can check it out. And these are the like just a few examples of what the different types of machine learning model and how they're applicable to different problem spaces. Uh, how do you actually set up a machine learning model? And it's very similar to like the data science lifecycle thing that I just explained. It's basically you ask an interesting question, you see, okay, what is my scientific goal? What would I actually do if I had all this data? Like, what would I try to predict? And then we go on to getting the data. Like we try to see, like, is this data relevant to the question I've just asked? Would it be helpful to me to predict what I want to predict? How is the data actually procured? And like, are there like privacy, like, ethical issues, like, while getting this data? Is it actually like, fair for me to get the data the way I have? Stuff like that. And then we explore the data. Like I said, like, you try to find patterns between the data, you try and find anomalies between the data, and you like try to like even plot it for yourself to see like, oh, okay, this is a correlation between this column and the target column I'm trying to predict. This is a correlation between these two columns together and the target column that I'm trying to predict, which will help you find some interesting, which will help you do feature engineering. Basically, it'll help you see, oh, these columns are important to me, these columns may not be that important to me. And then you actually do the feature engineering part of it, select the columns that you want, select the columns you feel are important from the visualizations you've done, try and create more. And then you actually go on to building the model, fitting the model on the data that we have, like fitting the model on the data that we have and training it. And then we validate the model by like, testing its accuracy and predictions on unseen data sets, or we can even do it on the same data set, like how Shay will explain that, while trying to do the first project. And then we communicate and visualize the results that we got. Like we try and make it understandable to someone who might not know what machine learning model is and wants to know what are our findings. What did you find out from the question that you asked? And we have to present it to them in a way that they can understand. And that is like, that's a very important step of machine learning model too, is data visualization. So there are two different approaches to do machine learning. One is through code. It's very good for like fine tuning models. It's like, very good for like changing like the small things in the model and deploying the machine learning models. And it's great for like big data sets. Like if you're trying to like work with like tens of thousands of data rows, it's really good for that. But the trade-off is it's going to take a lot of time and it requires a lot of coding expertise to do so. The other approach is using tools, like using actual software, like, that's there, it's provided to us. We have tools that we can use to do this machine learning. And the good part is we can quickly prototype and test our models. It's like good to understand the concepts of machine learning models. And the best part is like there's no coding expertise needed. Like anyone who's just interested in machine learning can like use machine learning modeling tools like Azure ML Studio, which you guys are going to learn today, and like try and build their own model in like the matter of hours or like minutes even. And it's the only trade-off is this is good with like small and medium-sized data sets, but if you go with like bigger data sets, we might have to actually use some code and fine-tune it. But yeah, for like medium data sets and small data sets, using a tool is perfect. And that's hopefully you guys like learn how to do so with your own data sets today. Now Shay's gonna take over with the Azure ML Studio part. Thank you guys, and like I hope you enjoyed what I told you guys.
Thank you so much, Shravan, for giving that intro to machine learning. Before I begin, I have a question to ask you guys. Considering we are a little short on time, I was planning to do two projects, but I can do one right now. There's one which is relatively simple and there's one which is a little more complex. And I think you guys might already have a brief idea of machine learning stuff. So would you guys prefer it if I do the easier project, like the more beginner one, or would you guys prefer it if I do a little more complex one? Just let me know in the chat right now, and then I can go ahead. Okay, I have one person say he'd prefer the easy one. Anyone else? If I have a larger consensus, okay, I have someone saying hard, someone saying average. I mean, I don't have hard, I just have the easy one, which is like the beginner stuff, and then I have a little more complex one. Nothing's hard. Okay, it seems like most of you wanna prefer doing the easy one right now. I mean, you guys will learn a lot from the easy one as well. Okay, all right, cool. Okay, so I'm going to begin by talking about what is Azure ML Studio. Also, by the way, thank you so much to Shravan. He did a great job.
Thanks, guys.
Okay. What is Azure ML Studio? So it's basically a drag and drop tool with which you can build and publish machine learning models and services for organizations. If you guys look at this screenshot right here, this is how the tool looks like. This is how the GUI looks like. It's really neat. I mean, did you ever think that you wouldn't need any coding to make a machine learning model? It's pretty great, right? And some benefits of Azure ML, it has a graphical user interface, so it reduces the requirement of knowing how to code. You have the ability to quickly prototype, test, and publish ML models, which can be used by mobile apps and web services. So you can deploy your machine learning model as a web service, and it can be used by different web apps, phone apps, everything. So that's pretty great. And it's a cloud-based tool, so it doesn't even use your computer's local resources. It uses the cloud resources, and it runs the model like really fast. It runs it in about, I don't know, 30 seconds to a minute, which is pretty great. So what I want you guys to do right now is I want you to open Azure ML Studio in your browser. The link is right here, studio.azureml.net. I can copy and paste this on the chat if you guys would like that. I have pasted the link on the chat. So, yeah. All right. And then I want you to sign into Azure ML using your UWNet ID. If you guys aren't from UW, you can probably use your Microsoft account. But if you do have a UWNet ID, I recommend that you sign in with that. And I'm going to give you guys 2 minutes to do that. And once you guys are done with that and set it up, please let me know in the chat. So I'll know when to continue. All right, did you guys open up the website all right and sign in? Okay. All right. Let me know if you guys need more time on the chat or I can go ahead. I'm gonna give you guys about a minute. If you do need more time, please let me know in the chat and I can wait up. All right, it seems like most of you are ready. Okay, so, oh, okay. Someone would like to, I'm not gonna start the project yet. I'm just gonna talk a little bit about machine learning before I start. So it's okay if you guys are taking your time, don't worry. But how do you build a machine learning model in Azure ML Studio, okay? So our first step is obviously going to be importing the data set or selecting a published data set. You can make a machine learning model without the data, so that's obviously going to be our first step. And as Shravan explained, the second step is going to be preparing the data, which is cleaning and selecting the columns that we need, right? And considering we're going to do like an easy project today, we're not going to do much data cleaning. But just note that it's a very important part of building a machine learning model because most data sets have a lot of missing values, and there needs to be an appropriate way to handle the missing values, and thus data cleaning is a very important part of making a machine learning model. And our next step is going to be selecting the columns that we need. As Shravan explained, we usually do this by a process known as feature engineering, which is also kind of complex. So what Shravan and I did was we did some feature engineering before this project, and we decided which columns are the best to use for the project. So we're just going to tell you which columns. But just note that in order to, you can't select whatever columns you want. You need to go through a process known as feature engineering to decide which columns will give you the best prediction. Okay. And our third step is going to be splitting the data into our training and testing data, okay? You guys will understand this a little bit better when we do our project, but just for context, if you feed 100% of your data set into your machine learning model, what is it going to compare its prediction against, right? It won't know what to compare it against. So what we do is we split the data into maybe a larger 80% and a smaller 20%. And after we give a larger 80% into the machine learning model so it can learn. And once it starts making predictions, we can use that smaller 20% to actually compare the accuracy of its prediction, okay? Thus, the larger 80% is known as the training data, and the smaller 20% is known as the testing data. Okay, you guys will understand this a lot better in the project. And then we're going to select an appropriate machine learning algorithm. As Shravan said, in the different types of machine learning, there's supervised machine learning and there's unsupervised machine learning. And under supervised, we have the classification algorithms and the regression algorithms. These are like complex stats concepts, so I won't go too deep into that. But all I want you guys to note is the classification algorithm is used when you want to predict a true false value. For example, if you want to predict whether an email is spam or whether an email is not spam, in that case, you would use a classification algorithm, okay? And if you want to actually predict a numeric value, like an actual numeric value, in that case, you're going to use a regression algorithm. For example, you have some data, you have a data set about a house, just like the latitude, longitude, number of rooms, etc. In that case, what you would want to do is you'd use a regression algorithm because you're actually trying to predict the numeric price of the house, okay? It's not a true false value that you're predicting. It's an actual numeric value. And then step 5 is going to be scoring and evaluating your algorithm, your machine learning model. So scoring the model basically means actually scoring the model gives you a percentage accuracy of how good your prediction is. So that's what scoring the model is, and evaluating actually helps you visualize the performance of your model, okay? And when I actually show you guys how to score and evaluate your model, you guys will understand what this means a lot better. And step 6 is going to be just deploying your project as a web service so that can be used by other websites or applications. Okay, awesome. So let me know if you guys are ready to start doing the project on the chat. I'm going to give you a minute maybe. Just let me know in the chat as soon as you guys are ready. I'm just going to give you a little bit of an explainer on the project in the meantime. Okay, nice. Looks like most of you are ready. So our project 1 is going to be income prediction, okay? So our goal is to create a model which will predict whether the income of a person will exceed $50,000 a year based on their attributes such as age, gender, marital status, and education. And as I explained before, the data set actually has a lot more columns, but these are the ones we selected using feature engineering, which will give us the best prediction, okay? But yeah, all right. And this information could be used to target high income customers with advertisements for premium products, okay? Awesome. So I'm just gonna open up Azure ML on my thing. Hold on. Also, guys, at any point, if you have a question, please ask it on the chat. I think maybe John can help me figure out, like he's moderating the chat. So if you have any questions, just ask it on the chat, okay? All right, so the first thing, you guys should be led to a page that looks something like this. So the first thing I want you guys to do is go to the bottom left corner and select on new, okay? And once you do that, you'll see that there are a lot of tutorials and samples here, which are really interesting. So I definitely recommend that you guys check that out in your own free time. But what we're gonna do is we're just gonna click on blank experiment. And we're just, as you guys can see, this is the GUI of Azure ML. And our first step is just going to be renaming our project to something more appropriate. So let's call it income prediction experiment. All right. Cool. So as I explained earlier, the first step is obviously going to be importing our data set, right? And for this project, we're just going to use a data set that's provided to us by Microsoft. So what I want you guys to do is move over to the left-hand panel, and you guys will see the first thing called Save Datasets. I want you to click on that and then move over to Samples. And the first data set right here is the Adult Census Income Binary Classification data set. I want you guys to click on this, the first one under Samples. I want you to click on this and drag and drop onto our main canvas. Okay. All right. So now all of us have our data set right now, but we have no idea what's inside it. Like what does it contain? What rows does it have? Is it a clean data set? So in order to explore the data set, we do something known as visualize the data set. So what I want you guys to do next is click on this data set that you've put over here, and then right click on it. 1 second. Seems like my right click isn't working for some reason. 1 second. Hold on, guys. Sorry. One second, guys. Okay. I'm trying to figure out why this is not working. Hold on. Just give me a minute, guys. I'm so sorry. But what I want you guys to do is right click on this data set, and if you go down, there'll be an option known as visualize. I want you to click on that. I will show that to you in just 1 second. Okay, sorry guys. I got a new laptop yesterday, and I wasn't entirely sure of my trackpad settings. I'm so sorry about that, but I figured it out. All right. So the first thing I want you guys to do is right click on it and then move over to data set. And then after that, I want you to click on visualize. Okay. And what this shows you is gives you a lot of information about your data set. It tells you, okay, this data set has 32,000 rows. It has 15 columns. It tells you what all columns are there within the data set, like age, work class, education, the marital status of someone, the occupation, relationship, sex, and obviously the thing that we're trying to predict, the income of a person. And as you guys can see, the income of a person is not an actual numeric value in this data set. It's just a true or false value. So it's either less than 50K a year or greater than 50K a year. Okay. So as I explained earlier, in that case, when you're predicting a true or false value, you use a classification algorithm for your machine learning model. Okay. And you can do a lot more with visualize. I mean, if you click on the column names, you can see some statistics about that particular column. You can see how many missing values it has. You can see its frequency histogram, and you can do that for all the columns here. And it's always a good idea to actually explore your data set so that you know how clean it is, so that you know what you're working with, you know what data you're working with, basically. All right. Yeah, and as I explained before, this is a relatively clean data set, so it has barely any missing values if you guys click on the columns. So yeah, so we're not going to be doing any cleaning today, but just note that it's an important process in building a machine learning model. Okay. So the next step that we're going to do, ideally it would be to clean our data set, but what we're going to do is we're going to select the columns that we want. Okay. So what I want you guys to do is go over to the left hand panel and under data, click on data transformation. And under data transformation, I want you to go under manipulation. And I want you to choose select columns in data set, this function. Okay, and I want you to drag and drop it into your main canvas. And the really neat thing about Azure ML is you can just make the connections that you want. Okay, so what you guys would want to do is the circle right here beneath this data set. I want you to click on it, and I want you to drag it towards the circle in select columns in data set. All right. And now we need to actually apply the function. We need to select the columns that we actually want. So what I want you guys to do is click on select columns in data set, and then move over to this right-hand. Once you click on that, this right-hand panel will show up, and a launch column selector option will be there. So what I want you guys to do is click on launch column selector, and here's where you can select the columns that you actually need. So I'm going to tell you guys what to select. So these are all the available columns we have. So I want you guys to click on age, and then click on this right arrow right here. And it's going to go to our selected columns. So age, education, do the same thing for education, marital status, relationship, race, sex, and obviously income. That's what we're trying to predict, right? Cool. And after you do that, just confirm your changes by clicking on this tick right here. Awesome. So now we've selected the columns we needed as well. So as I explained, after cleaning and selecting the columns you need, the next step is going to be actually splitting our data into the testing and training data, right? And as I explained earlier, if you feed 100% of the data into your model, it won't know what to compare its prediction against, right? So it won't know how good its prediction really is. 1 second, there's a question. The name of the data set is adult census income binary classification. Yeah. So it won't know what to compare against. It won't know how good its accuracy is. So for that reason, we split the data into the larger. We spread it into a ratio of maybe 70-30 or 80-20. The larger percentage is the training data, which the machine learning model actually learns, and the smaller version, the smaller number is the testing data with which our machine learning model compares its prediction against. Okay, so it's going to compare the prediction and give a numeric value, like a numeric percentage accuracy of how good it thinks the prediction is. Okay, like for example, I may say 90%. That means your prediction is 90% accurate. All right, so our next step is going to be splitting the data. So what I want you to do is move over to the left-hand panel, and in the search bar right here, I want you to just search split data. Okay, and this split data function should show up. I want you to, like we did before, just drag and drop it. And like we did before, just connect the select columns and data set to split data. Okay. Now we need to actually tell our machine learning model the ratio with which we want to split. Okay, and for the purpose of this assignment, I'm going to make you guys do an 80-20 split. So what I want you to do is click on split data, the function, Then move over to the right-hand panel right here. And under fraction of rows, I want you to make it 0.8. Okay, so this divides it into a ratio of 80-20. 80% being the training data, 20% being the testing data. Okay, and yeah, one thing I want you guys to note is, as you guys can see, there are two circles beneath the split data function. So what this means is the left-hand circle is basically our training data, and the right-hand circle is our testing data. So the left-hand one is the larger 80%, and the right-hand one is the smaller 20%. Okay, just remember that this is where our training data is saved. This is where our testing data is saved. All right, now we are ready to actually train our model. And what does a machine learning model require in order to be trained? It requires the training data, obviously, and it requires the actual machine learning model with which it can learn and start predicting, right? And as I explained earlier, we're predicting a true or false value, so we're going to be using a classification algorithm. Okay. Also, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask them on the chat. Okay. So the next step is I want you guys to move to the left-hand panel and just search train model. And I want you to just drag and drop it onto the main canvas. All right, great. And as I explained, so this right-hand circle expects the training data, and this left-hand circle expects the algorithm with which it'll learn. Okay, and we have our training data right here, as I explained, the left-hand circle. So we're just going to connect it to train model. Okay, and the next thing I want you to do is just remove whatever you searched in the search bar on the left-hand panel, and that should pull up this menu again. You can just collapse it by clicking on this again. Yeah, and then after that, I want you guys to go under machine learning right here, and then click on initialize model. And then you can see the different types of machine learning algorithms that Shravan talked about earlier. He talked a little bit about classification and regression. So we want to use a classification algorithm because we're predicting whether someone's income is greater than 50K or less than 50K. So it's like a true or false thing, right? So click on classification, and I want you guys to choose the 2-class boosted decision tree. Okay? The 2-class boosted decision tree. Don't worry if this makes no sense to you. Just note that the classification algorithm just decides whether it's used in a true or false case. So Shravan and I worked before this, and we decided that this was the best algorithm, but that's a little more complex, deciding the best algorithm. So I'm just going to tell you guys that, okay? So yeah, and just connect this to the train model. All right, got it. Great. But however, as you guys can see, there's still an error right here. Like it's giving us an error. This is happening because, okay, we know that we want to predict the income of a person based on all these attributes, right? We know that. However, our machine learning model doesn't know that yet, right? It doesn't know what it's trying to predict. And so we need to tell our machine learning model, okay, you're trying to predict the income of a person. So what I want you to do is click on train model and move over to the right-hand panel and click on launch column selector.
Hey Shrey, we have a question in the chat for the, they say it's text preprocessing.zip.
Oh, okay. Do you not find the data set? Is the data set not available to you? You can unmute yourself real quick. I can try helping you. Okay, so the data set itself isn't available. Okay, if you it should be available. Are you from UW? Did you sign in with your UW Net ID? Okay, what I would recommend to you right now is you can probably sign in with your Microsoft account or something later. It seems like you don't have the entire access to Azure ML. So what I would suggest is maybe go through the recording later, and once you figure out your settings, all right? Awesome. Okay, so now we need to actually tell our model what we're trying to predict, right? So I want you to click on Train Model, and then move over to the right-hand panel and click on Launch Column Selector. Okay, and now we're just going to tell it, okay, we are trying to predict the income of a person. So I just want you to type in income. It's as simple as that, literally. And then click on the confirm it. See, now the error is not there anymore. All right, now we have successfully trained our model. The next thing we want to do, as I explained, is we want to score the model. And what scoring our model does is it gives you an actual percentage accuracy of how good your prediction is. Okay, that's the purpose of score model. So what I want you guys to do is move over to the left-hand panel and search score model. If you guys basically know these overarching concepts, like what score model does, what train model does, Azure ML is pretty easy and intuitive to use. All right, so now we have our score model. What score model expects is it expects a train model on the left circle, and it expects the testing data on the right circle. Okay, and we have both of these right now in our pipeline. So connect the train model to the left-hand circle of score model, and connect the testing data, which is the right-hand circle of your split data, onto the score model. Awesome. And now once we run the project, the score model is going to give us a percentage accuracy of how good our prediction is. Like it may say 60%, so it's 60% accurate, or it may be 90%. We are going for like a higher accuracy. So let's see how that works out. All right. And after that, our last step in completing the pipeline is going to be actually evaluating our model. And as I explained earlier, evaluate model means it means actually visualizing the performance of your machine learning model. Okay. So what I want you to do is move over to the left-hand panel, and you guys guessed it, you need to search evaluate model. And then just drag and drop it onto the main canvas. And then we're just going to connect score model to the left circle of evaluate model. And voila, we have completed our pipeline. So what I want you to do is make sure you save it. Please make sure you save it before you do any running. Just save it twice just to be safe. Okay. And then we're going to click on run. Okay, and this should happen really fast because it uses the cloud resources. So I want you guys to click on run, and then we can have a look at what evaluate model does. But we're not completely done yet once we do the run. All right, awesome. This happened really quickly for me, but I'm gonna wait maybe 2 or 3 minutes for you guys to reach this step. Let me know if you guys have run your project successfully, because it works at different speeds on different computers. Let me know once you guys reach this step and you have all green ticks. Are you guys ready? Just give me a ready if you guys want me to continue, because I want to make sure we're all on the same page. Okay, last step. Let me give you guys maybe a minute. Thank you guys for being so responsive. That's actually really nice. What is score model? Score model basically, what it does is it gives you a percentage accuracy of how good your prediction is. So once we're done, and we actually try to start predicting the income, along with its prediction, it's going to give you a number, which may be 90 or 85 or something. And what that means is it's 85% accurate that the income of this person based on these attributes is based on all these attributes, this person earns more than 50,000 a year. It's 85% sure. Did you get it? And evaluate model helps you visualize the performance, and I will show you what that means once you guys run it. Do you guys think I can go ahead? Just let me know in the chat if you're ready. I will explain the differences to you right now, like in a minute. Okay, guys, I'm gonna go ahead. All right. So what I want you to do is, again, I'm gonna explain what evaluate model is. So what I want you guys to, oh, 1 second. Yeah, what I want you guys to do is right click on evaluate model, and under evaluation results, scroll down to evaluation results and select visualize, okay? And this is what shows up, okay? It's okay if you guys can't make sense of the graph right now. I'm gonna explain it to you. So what this graph basically means is, so this graph is, there's a diagonal right here, if you guys can see, and this graph, this blue line is curved upwards of the diagonal. So what I want you guys to know is, if it's curved this way above the diagonal, that means our prediction has a pretty good accuracy. Like, we have made a pretty accurate machine learning model. This is the case when it's curved above the diagonal. Now, for example, if this blue line was exactly against this diagonal, in that case, our machine learning model is not predicting it properly. It's making a random guess. So it gets the correct answer maybe 50% of the time. Okay, so if that's the case when it was exactly against the diagonal. And there's one more case where it's like a mirror image, and it's underneath the diagonal. Okay, so in that case, our machine learning model is very good at predicting the wrong value. Okay, if that makes sense, which is not always a bad thing, because we can just take the opposite. So in summation, if it is curved upwards of this diagonal, that means our machine learning model is predicting it fairly accurately and well. If it's exactly against this diagonal, it's a random guess, and our machine learning model is not good at predicting. And if it was below this diagonal, like a mirror image of this current curve, in that case, it's very good at predicting the wrong answer. Okay? Awesome. Do you guys have any questions on that? And I hope that clarified the difference between score and evaluate for you. So this is the use of evaluate, and we'll see the actual percentage with score model. Okay, awesome. Now we are actually ready to set up our machine learning model as a web service. Okay, and what this does is it'll help you open up a form with which you can actually enter values and see what your prediction is. Okay, so I want you guys to save this again one more time, and then go over to set up web service. 1 second. If this option, predictive web service, is not showing up for you guys, what I want you to do is just run the program again, and then it should show up. All right, yeah, now it shows up. So move over to setup web service and click on predictive web service, okay? And this will lead you to a new page. It'll make some changes into your pipeline. Okay, and we're still not done. We are almost done, but we still are not done. We have a few more steps. So at this point, we have trained our model. We fed it all the data. It knows that, okay, it basically, it has learned how to predict the income of a person based on all these other attributes that we selected, right? So at this point, it can actually make a prediction. So at this point, we don't actually need the income of a person, because based on someone's age, education, marital status, relationship, race, and sex, our machine learning model is able to predict the person's income, right? So we don't need the income anymore. So what I want you guys to do is click on select columns and data set, move over to the right-hand panel, click on launch column selector. Okay, and similar to how we selected the column before, what I want you to do is click on income and then click on this back arrow and deselect income. Okay, and we're doing this because our machine learning model is capable of predicting the income. So we just need to input all these values. Okay, I hope that makes sense. After that, I want you to just go over and confirm your changes. And we have one last step, okay? So as you guys can see, there's a new thing known as web service input right here. So this is basically the stuff that we input into our machine learning model. And what is it we input? We are going to input the age, education, marital status, relationship, race, and sex, right? This is the stuff we're going to input with which our model is going to predict the income. So we don't want this web service input to go through the entire process of selecting the columns in data set and go through the entire training process that we did before, right? So what I want you to do is I want you to just connect the web service input directly into our model instead of it going through all of this. So in order to do that, you can just move around this box right here and then click on the connection between the input and select columns and then right click on it and just delete the connection, okay? And now you can make a new connection. So I just want you to connect it directly onto score model. And that's about it. That's our last step. Have you guys reached this place fine so far? I'm so sorry that it's extended, guys. It's just going to be it's going to be 5 more minutes, okay? So the next step is going to be actually running the experiment. So we're just going to click on run. Oh, make sure you save it for sure. And then click on run. You need to run it one more time. And awesome, it has finished running. Just make sure you save it again. And now we're ready to actually deploy it as a web service. So this option should show up for you guys, this globe right here next to run. So what I want you guys to do is click on deploy web service. Oh, what? The experiment must be run. Okay, so that's weird. I'm just gonna run it again. And it has ran, and now we can deploy as web service. And this should lead you to a page that looks something like this. Here you have an API key. So if you guys know how that works, you can use this to actually use your machine learning model in like different websites and applications, okay? All right, so what I want you to do is go to request/response, and under that, click on test, this test button right here, and this should open up a form. And this is where we're going to input all the details. And with this, we're going to get a prediction for the person's income. Okay, so you guys can just copy what I'm typing out. So for age, I'm going to put 44. For education, I'm going to put married dash civ dash spouse. Make sure you get the dashes right, because that's the format in the data set. And then marital status, we're gonna put oh wait, that's not, oh sorry, that's for marital status, my bad. For education, we're gonna put doctorate.
Hey Shrey.
Yeah, what's up?
We have to wrap up the workshop because the next one is supposed to start.
Okay, I'm done in 1 minute. I'm done in like a minute. We're gonna put own child for relationship. For race, we're gonna put white, and for sex, we're gonna put female. Okay, this is the stuff you guys should type in, and then we're just gonna click on this tick right here, and as you guys can see, it's given us a prediction. So based on these details, 44, doctorate, married, own child, white, female, it's predicted that this person earns more than 50K in a year. And this is the accuracy which our score model gives us, which is 0.86. So it can say with an 86% accuracy that based on all these values, a person earns more than 50,000 in a year. Okay. I think that's about it, guys. If you've reached this step, you've successfully made your first machine learning model. So I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I'm sorry for extending the workshop. Have a great day, guys. I hope you learned something new. John, should I leave? Should I stay on the meeting, or what should I do?
You can end the meeting whenever you're comfortable.
So should I end the meeting?
Yeah, go ahead and end the meeting.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, guys. Have a great day.
Thank you.